Hi everyone, it's Darren Hunter and Dennis Youssef. We are from Inspired Growth Training. Today with our Inject Growth series, we are going to be talking about how to build trust fast to win the business. And Dennis, I don't think we can state it any clearer. Trust is an absolute must if you want to win the business. That is the name of the game. That is real estate. It's all about people, not about property. And we've got to win the trust to win the business.
Oh, I certainly do. I think that somebody would be happy to go with a client that might not have as much, the service might not be as good, Darren, or they might have the most up-to-date systems in the office, but they might trust them more. I believe that trust is potentially upwards of 80% of you winning the business.
Yeah, I think, people complain that the cheaper agent down the road won the business. Well, maybe the cheaper agent got most trust. I guess tell people that, it's like a meter. You've got a 0 and you've got maximum trust, and you have to get that needle maximized in pole position, and you're likely to win. And if your fees are higher, but you got maximum trust, then you're likely to get the signature on that agreement. So trust is so essential.
Yeah, it is. I couldn't agree more.
Now, before we get started, we do have subscribers over several countries, so we are using Australian terminology. With legislation, please apply everything to your rules first. If we say anything that breaches your rules, your legislation, common sense prevails, apply your rules first. Now, also, if you have any questions, get good support. Go to our IGT Inner Circle members page. It's a closed Facebook group, one of the best support groups you're going to get around. Commonly we have people in the group saying it's one of the best support groups I've ever been in. And also, if you have any questions, email us office@inspiredgrowthtraining.com.
Yeah, so a quick way to find it, if you go to Facebook and you do a search for our Inspired Growth Training Facebook page, make sure you like our page, and on the left hand side you click on the community and the group is there. You just click and join. There's 3 simple questions for you to answer, so we know that you are a member, and we'll cross-reference and add you into the group.
Alrighty, let's get started. So today we're talking about how to build trust fast and to win the business. Now, Dennis, I think, we've got to differentiate our industry from others, and I've done a lot of online marketing research, and sure, there's companies out there that can teach you how to get a person to click on a web page quicker and sell and buy stuff. But we're dealing in real estate with people, and we're dealing with high value assets. So in real estate, it's a lot more different than, say, shopping down at Kmart or something like that. So we really have to become masters at trust if we're going to become masters at property management business growth.
Spot on, you do. And Darren, irrespective of the trade, like you're saying, whatever the business is, I fell into real estate because I didn't trust the person that was looking after me. That there was no trust there, and I rang the boss, to talk about it. And when I was in fruit and veggies, when I had my fruit markets, you have to gain trust to those mums and dads that are coming into your shop. An example of me gaining the trust was I used to give their children, samples of strawberries, grapes, mushrooms, beans, whatever it is, to calm those children. So I was influencing them to want to stay in the shop, and that's gaining trust and giving them advice and helping them on whatever they're cooking, talking with them. So it's so important. So if you're coming in and I'd say, what are you cooking tonight? You'd say fish. I'd say, well, some fennel is really great for the fish, or tarragon, or, whatever it is to help you. And then you go back and cook it, and you tell your wife, wow, the fruito told me to do this. And it's just about trust, giving them that advice. But that's putting your knowledge into practice.
Yep, absolutely. Okay. Okay. So, well, actually, Dennis, this is your slide. You start on this one.
It is. And you're talking about real estate. It's exactly what you said. How are real estate agents perceived? I don't know what it's like in the United States and New Zealand, Darren, but definitely in Australia, 2 years ago, we were the second most least trusted, people in the like in Australia. Like,
Well, you'd think that politicians and used car salespeople wouldn't be as good as what real estate agents are.
no, but the car sales are actually they've jumped us at the moment, but I think we're still in the top 5. So we're already behind the 8 ball with that trust. So it's really important. I mean, there's movies about it. There's, you know, we joke about real estate agents. There's TV shows. I mean, you know, one of my favorite TV shows, the dad is a real estate agent. And, you know, it's just one of those things that it comes out. Like, but they are bagged out. They are.
But us in property management, you think it's a bit unfair that we get tarred with the sales brush because we're usually salaried. You know, we're in a completely different environment than sales, but people still perceive us to be the same because we work in real estate. So we have to go with the tag.
Yeah, we do.
Yep. Now, this is one of my favorite quotes by Zig Ziglar. If people like you, they'll listen to you, but if they trust you, they'll do business with you. And it really rams home the point that people will not sign a management agreement with you unless they really trust you. So this whole session today, Dennis, having looked through the slides already and also the material that you've put in, this is really about getting you into pole position, number 1 position, that when you knock on that door at that listing appointment, if they're seeing 1 or 2 other agencies as well, you want to be the number 1 favorite person in trust. And so follow these keys here. You're going to be well ahead of your competitors that aren't following these rules.
Absolutely. I mean, Darren, I think we could have easily made this a 2 or 3 hour session.
I'm just talking to you. There's a training video on every one of these points here, and we're going to do that as well and really explore these things, because people just get into this hole that owners only care about cheap fees. They don't. They care mostly about trust. And in most cases, not with all owners, but most owners will sign that form and pay your fees if they trust you the most, because they are handing over their asset to you. Their the most important asset that they have. Now, so let's talk about that. You're managing likely their biggest asset worth hundreds of thousands of dollars. And this is the sort of thing that stresses people out. They lose a lot of sleep over this sort of thing. And they want a person that's going to manage all of the stress for them. So it's a really big decision. So I just can't go on about this enough, that people just think the owners really care about cheap fees. They don't. And this is where your points of difference really come in as well. Strong points of difference really speed up that trust meter. But if you have, instead of points of difference, you've got points the same, the more points the same that you have of all your competitors, the more the owner is going to focus on the fees because they're looking for a difference. Okay, but get the trust, like they're going to get the fees as well. So let's talk about returning the call quickly. Now, I had the first bullet point here: ensure all calls are answered. And particularly, maybe people at home here in Australia, New Zealand are thinking, well, that's just a basic. It's like turning up to work and breathing. Well, let me tell you a story. We did a sample phone calls in the United States, doing a secret fee shopper in Texas. We called up 500 agencies in Texas, and half of the officers there didn't actually pick up the phone when we called. Absolutely shocking. Now, I know that those stats aren't like that here in Australia, but still the phone goes unanswered. And particularly if an owner is calling you, he is going to want to give you his property management. The phone isn't going to get answered. It's going to go badly for you. Now, most agencies have staff that are just too busy and distracted to return calls on time. And I always laugh, if an owner's going into the market, is calling up 3 agents, he actually thinks right at the start that all agents are the same. And when he only has one person return his call, let alone return it quickly, they can quickly see how different agencies are. But a lot of officers simply have no systems in place to track the leads or the opportunities that come to the office. So by ensuring that you return the call quickly, it's going to put you in front really, really quick. And so know that if you have a policy in the office right now, if you have a policy in the office right now that every call that comes in with new business, that you quickly return it and have that in place, you've got to know that your competitors are simply not doing the same. You're already out in front, just with the first point right here.
So what you're saying is, the question that I want to ask there, Darren, is, how long is too long to return a call? I mean, on myself, when I first started the BDM position, 1 hour is what I set myself. If someone rang at 10 o'clock and I was out of the office, I wanted to get that call done within an hour, because when someone's got a need and they're ringing, they've got a question, that, we're in a society where people want to know things straight away. 1 hour is a long time for them to be waiting, and then obviously as I was getting busier, I had to stretch that to 2 hours, but then it was my job to educate the people that were answering the phone on my behalf to actually say, so if it said on my calendar that I was going to be out until 2 o'clock in the afternoon, my staff was educated. It says that Dennis will be back at 2 o'clock. However, he'll have any works that he's got to do and other calls that have come in for him. But obviously it's very important. I'll get him to give you a call as soon as he can. And then what would happen, I'd walk in, Dennis, I've got this person, they've got a new business, blah, blah, blah. So they're already telling me who I had to call first. They were highlighting it for me. And even sometimes there'd be a sticky note on my screen, which was really good for new business. But as I started consulting, Darren, I had people telling me, I leave it towards the end of the day because I'm happier. Hello. They're happier because they're going home at the end of the day. Or they would leave it till first thing in the morning when they're fresh. So, and Friday, Darren, I did not know what hump day was until I joined Facebook. It's a true fact that on a Monday or Sunday night, everyone's going, oh, I've got to go to work in the morning, or I'm at work, or it's Friday, it's Monday, and everyone's sad. If you're not happy with your work, change your job. That's all I've got to say. Be passionate, love what you're doing, or put yourself into a position that you really enjoy your job, because you will perform better. But, and then hashtag Friday, because it's Friday, I don't get it.
So I just want to add to that. I think this is where we differentiate between a motivated BDM and staff.
Yep.
Because if you're giving this job to staff, then you're subject to all of these attitudes coming through in your tone to the client. They want a person that's enthusiastic, quick off the mark, and they are judging you on these things. This is why you've got to have a motivated BDM that's not worried about Mondays and Fridays or anything like that, or quickly returning the call. This is a differentiator between winning and not getting the business.
Darren, Monday is such an important day, because it's like, I know that the salespeople had been at open homes, or they've been speaking to purchasers over the weekend, and I was going in and hammering them. Who have you got? Who have you got? Who are you going to refer to? And I was hitting them up. So Mondays is always a good day. So yeah, I'll admit I used to love prospecting on Fridays, because everyone is in a happier mood. But take advantage of your rivals not liking Monday. It's such an important thing to work on.
So let's talk about promotional material. And this is your booklets, your brochures, your business cards, absolutely everything. And you've got to place focus on quality. You're going to have to spend some money here. People will judge you on the strength of your business, on the actual quality of your brochures, booklets, business cards, and so forth. Dennis, I really like to there's our
upside down.
Yeah.
There's an example of our business card. I know it's only a small thing here, and I possibly should have put it in the slides.
Well, look at the back. I mean, we've got the quality photography there by our photographer Brad Delaney from theheadshopguys.com.au. The Headshot Guys. Just get in contact with Brad if you want some quality photography done. But we place the emphasis on our cards because people judge you. Now, this is an exercise I like to give people, Dennis, and I remember doing this at the Washington, D.C. Event I did a couple of years ago. We got everybody in the room to shut their eyes, and I cut out some business card size bits of just paper, in a normal copy paper. And I got everyone to shut their eyes, and I put the piece of paper in everybody's hand, and I said, this is my business card. I want to do business with you. Now feel this, my business card, and of course it's just paper. Tell me what you perceive about me and my company. And people were saying it's flimsy, it feels weak. And they perceived me and my company and described my company by feeling the lack of strength in the business card, which of course was just copy paper. And then I said, all right, put that down, keep your eyes shut. Everyone kept their eyes shut. And then I placed my business card into all of their hands throughout the room. I said, okay, now tell me what you think of me and my company. Wow, it's strong. I've got confidence in it. And all of this positive stuff came out, and no one could see my business card. And so this is a tip that I learned from Brian Tracy, one of the best business teachers in the world, that people will perceive you subconsciously, whether you're strong or weak, through the quality of your materials. So certainly from a business card point of view, it needs to be strong as a playing card. So that's why my business cards have always dealt with are very strong. They're good quality. They're in a matte finish. They have rounded corners, not normal square corners. So it's different, and it's perceived to be high quality.
Darren, so after listening to that, I want our business cards to be cast iron from now on. But then it's too heavy. So instead of cast iron, we'll go for the gold look, because gold is a lighter feel.
You know, I wish I had. Actually, I've got one right here. So this is a card that was given to me at one of our events recently, Dennis, and I'll just hold it up to the screen. It's like the card that you get at a hotel. Yep. You put in the door slot. And this card here, I mean, look at the quality of it. This guy is serious and understands this teaching here, that you are judged on the quality of your promotional materials. So well done to Vish,
really
you know who you are, one of the best business cards. And also Kevin Knight in Texas from San Antonio with Liberty Management. Also, when I taught about the paper and the card, he went out and produced really high quality, thicker than our business cards, and getting a lot of good results as well with the way that their company is perceived with their promotional material.
Excellent. So some listening questions, Darren, here is, number 3, one of my favorite questions is asking, have you had any previous experience with real estate before? So, you've called them up, you've got your promotional items that you're talking about. And the next point is, asking them about previous experience. And the reason why I liked asking this question, especially if they'd been a tenant and I knew that we've got great systems in place, or they had, so they're talking about, I used to be a tenant, and they might talk about a bad time they had as a tenant. So I talk about the good systems, or if they had a property rented previously, or if it was under current management, it then tells me where they're at in their situation. Or they might even say, Dennis, I've just had another agent come through my property, and I spoke to them, but I wasn't quite happy with them, so I thought I'd bring another agent. So it's a really good question to ask them. Why did you call the office? I mean, we need to know why they called. Was it a Facebook ad they saw? Was it a salesperson? They're really proud that they're referring it to you. Did they just Google it? They might have seen your Google reviews. We've done a session on Google not long ago, so people can have a look, because that's an important session to go back and watch. You need to know where your leads are from. And Darren, you'd already spoken about earlier, tracking those leads. So if you've got a CRM like Inspect Real Estate BDM, you can put it in, or wherever it is, you need to track where your leads are coming from. My utmost favorite question: what concerns do you have about renting your home? So the reason why I've got home highlighted there in blue, yes, it's going to be an investment property, but we need to hit them in the heart, and it's still their home. So it's a happier situation. It's not a business yet, okay? So what concerns you have about renting out your home? We want them to talk about the concerns. We want to know what they are, because they're going to tell us how we're going to win the business. If their concern is they're worried it's going to sit vacant for too long, or if they're worried the rent's not going to be collected, or they're worried the tenant's going to trash the property, or they're worried that when they move back into the home, it's not going to be in the same condition, you then know what systems you need to talk about for you to be able to win that business. They're showing you that how you're going to win it. They're telling you the hot point, okay? And so an example script is, if they're worried about the rent not being collected, you talk about, Mr. and Mrs. Smith, that's a really good question. It's a common question that comes through. I'm going to send you an example of how we market our properties, so we can show you how we attract the best quality tenant that we can. And we also advertise all of our properties on our rental list as a premier listing on realestate.com. Okay, so, and you work your way down. It doesn't, if someone's worried about the property being trashed or the rent not coming in, don't talk about how strict you are. Talk about how you market the property, because that's how you attract the good tenants, and then you can move into your tenant selection. So it's that process downwards. Everyone goes straight to the tenant selection, but there's a section up the top. So Darren, tip number four is prepare your presentation packs. So I used to always tell my clients, my potential landlords, what I was going to do for them. So Mr. and Mrs. Smith, our appointments booked for, I'm now going to put together a pack just for you. Okay, so I'm getting personal with them. I'm going to put this together. So I've actually got a few questions that I need to ask so I can get my packs ready. So, then I'd ask them a few questions about the property. Do they own the property? Everyone forgets if it's them that owns it, because I used to also like pre-filling the agreement that I want them to sign. So in Queensland, it's called a Form 6. In other countries, it's an acting agency agreement, but it's also like what I call a softer approach is calling it an authorization form, because in essence, they're giving you authorization to collect the rent, market the property, send letters on their behalf, kick a tenant out if you have to, whatever the case. Okay, so authorization form. So I used to pre-fill it out, and then I'd get a pre-listing package ready, so I could get ready to email some stuff through to them, and I would let them know that I'm going to do a comparable market analysis on their behalf. So it's getting them into the yes responses, Darren, and then what they're doing is, I'm asking them, is it a 4-bedroom home? Is it a 3-bedroom home? How many bathrooms? Or, you're getting them talking, and then you can start asking them your best email and your best contact number. So they're giving, okay? So it does help. So, and then what you do is you can also then start talking about and putting information together that you are receiving elite national, international training. I've got international there. So Darren, all of the people that are listening to this audio right now, this video, they can actually say that they receive international training because we are international coaches.
Absolutely.
Okay, so we go overseas and we travel, and we so this is actually
we got 4 countries that this training covers, Dennis. It's Australia, New Zealand, United States, and Canada.
Canada, that's right. So and talk about the highest returns you're getting for your clients. Talk about any awards that you've won. So even when I had won an award, I never said that Dennis Youssef won an award. I used to say that one of our staff, or if I was speaking at an event, and one of our team members is speaking at a conference. So, because you've got to be careful about that tall poppy syndrome. A phenomenal low 1.7. And the reason why I've got that is because it's your favorite thing, Darren, about reversing those arrears, right? So you talk about 98.3% of our tenants are paying their rent on time. Or you could talk about an occupancy rate, okay, that 99% of our properties are full.
So instead of glass half empty, which is 1% of our tenants are behind in the rent, it's glass half full, which is 99% of our tenants pay their rent on time. And we can do that for occupancy, days on market as well, and all those sorts of things.
Yeah, so if you are putting all of this information together, have certain things bold, like reading a newspaper. They've got a heading and then they've got a little bit of writing. So if you have the headings, all these points here are just some examples, you have them bold, it actually makes them want to read it, and have some imagery in there as well. So Darren, you talk about hyperlinks to education stuff. So like I said before, if they said their concern is, you could send them, I'll send you a hyperlink, I'll send you a link showing you example marketing, or it could be example how we, a video of how you explain how you have a strict policy in your application process. So you can email all of this stuff. Email the frequently asked questions ahead as well, and they could potentially answer them before you get in the door. Okay, so you've got email out property management questions that they've got to ask, video testimonials, because we want to beat those concerns. If they've got a concern about a certain thing, you want to have a video testimonial on that problem from one of your clients. If it was a private owner, not thinking about renting the property themselves, send them a link to a private owner that you've converted and get a testimonial from them so they can see that problem, and then links to those example marketings that I previously just said. The videos are so important.
I can't underestimate the power of having your own YouTube channel with playlists where you can put 2, 3, 4 minute educational videos covering real crucial areas, all sorts of things there that you just have your library of videos there, and then you can just send out the links, the YouTube links on need.
Absolutely. So now emailing it all out. So everything that we mentioned, I'll just flick it back. All of these things that we mentioned in preparing your packs, have it in an email as well. You can email it all out to them, plus more questions, okay? Have them out there, and a video CMA. So I'm going to flick the next slide so you can see an example of what a comparable market analysis is in a video format.
Hi, I'm Shoshana McNichol from Macquarie Real Estate. My role is to assist inner city investors to secure a high quality tenant and maximise the return on their investment property. Our CBD team of 5 have a combined industry experience of 65 years. Our team undertake ongoing training and use the latest technology to ensure that our service remains at the forefront of the industry. Stay with me now for an update on your property.
That's a good lead-in video.
It is. It is a really good lead-in, and it talks about what type of the property it is, as you can see it coming up.
So using your still shots with a bit of text on the screen.
So the comparison on the vacancy rates.
Yep, simple stuff.
Yeah, so it's quite simple. So
yep. What software can that be done on, Dennis?
iPhone. It's called iMovie. So
iMovie on your iPhone. So go to the App Store, download iMovie. You'll be able to put the text on there really easily. And I do apologize again with the staggered frame rate, but you get the idea of the video and how it works.
Yeah, it does. And look, those videos, that was performed on this particular phone right here, Darren. This one right here, okay?
Very easy to do. There's no excuse, is there, Dennis?
No, there's not. So once you've booked your appointment, the next stage is to actually send out your confirmation. So send them a calendar invitation. Just like we run our business, Darren, we send a calendar invitation for our appointments, and then you can send it out. And then once you've sent that out, you send them a video message as a text. Okay, and here's a couple of examples of how you can video text. Everyone's going.
Yes, I might just quickly add, with a calendar invite, you've got to be sending these invites out because you've also got the function of reminder as well, whether it's an email reminder, a notification. Dennis, you may recall very recently we talked to a BDM regarding looking at a new software package for our business, and he was sending out reminders by email beforehand, because what is he trying to do? That when the appointment comes, that we haven't forgotten about it, we're ready, our mind is ready, and he's captured our attention. And that's what you need to do with everyone. So busy these days, you've got to send out these calendar invites so people are reminded, and you stand the best chance of having that quality time at the appointed time.
Yeah, certainly do. And then the video message, what it does is bringing personality back into real estate, because everyone's become so tech savvy and they're sending emails for everything and they're forgetting to pick up the phone. Well, sending a video message is actually getting personal with the client. It's getting face to face, just like we get face to face with our clients. So here's a couple of examples.
Hi Dennis, it's Taylor here from Raywa Rockhampton, just touching base and saying thanks so much for giving me a call regarding your property. I'm really looking forward to appraising it next week. If you have any questions at all between now and then, feel free to give me a call.
Okay, simply done in the card.
Great
So
example. Really pushes these things. I mean, if anything, these things push the trust meter from 0 up to maximum really, really quickly. But also know your competitors are not doing things like this. Really take on this tip.
So Darren, I received an email, only 3 emails this week from people that we're training, and they actually said they screenshot what their clients said. One of them was, thank you so much for all the information. You're so professional. And then in capitals, love the video message.
Yeah.
Love the video
We're
message.
hearing stories all the time of people that weren't winning the business, started doing these video texts, and now winning the business regularly. This is a real golden nugget, this one.
Certainly. So that's just a simple way of doing it on the phone. And the next one is a professional version that you can send out. I like the video text just quickly done on your phone, because you can actually talk about an appointment. You could say, hey, Darren, I've just emailed that information through for you. Looking forward to seeing you at 3 o'clock tomorrow afternoon.
A lot more personalized and real.
It is. So the next one is more professional, and it's done professionally, and you can send it to all of your clients.
Hi, Julie here from First National Real Estate Toronto. Just a quick message to say thank you for your inquiry and the opportunity for me to provide you with information regarding our local rental market and our property management services. I'm going to be sending you an email with information attached. Please take the time to have a look over that. If you have any questions, don't hesitate to jot them down, and I look forward to chatting with you soon. Have a great day.
You know, Julie always makes me smile. She's a lady that just really knows how to make people feel welcome, and such a trusting person.
Yeah, certainly one of the leaders in the industry in Australia. So, Darren, arriving on time, I thought late meant latte. Okay? I mean, you know, it's even spelt the same way. I mean, I know you're always bantering on to me about time. Even this recording today, we're a little bit late, but that's because I'm always adding extra things into a presentation. You know, but, you know, you've always got to be prompt with your times.
No, I think, you know, people dealing with people like me, and we do the DISC profile. If you know me, I'm a very high D. I'm that manager, entrepreneur, bull at a gate. If you're dealing with my type of personality, which is 1 in 4 people, then if you're not on time, then that can certainly cause offense. So you've always got to be prompt with your time. Otherwise, you run the risk of people feeling that you're disrespecting them because you've disrespected their time. And if you are regularly running late, like if you set a time for 1 o'clock and you get there at 5 past or 10 past or whatever time you set, it's always after. You got to know that's a habit. And that's a habit that you've got to stop and you've got to break. And it comes down to your base beliefs that generally deep down you think it's okay. We've got to work on that, change that base belief, and then we can get different actions, different results. So check on the Google map, have a look up front, see how far away it is. Maybe if it's you know, if it's going to be during peak hour traffic, add some more time in so you plan to be there on time. Or like me, I always plan to be there that bit early, and if I'm going to be late, at latest I'm going to be right on time. So message people ahead, have their number in the contact, so it's easy just to give them a quick call. Hey, letting you know, John, I'm going to be late, or able to pull to the side of the road, send a text, hey John, I'm going to be run 5 to 10 minutes late. Here is also something you got to be very, very careful of. Is not to park in their driveway. That could break trust and bring your trust meter back towards 0 again, because this is people's personal space. It's a bit like going in, in an open inspection and going and lying on someone's bed. You're really going to cause some problems there. So make sure you don't park in their driveway.
Yeah, and Darren, if I can just say, with regards to being late, I used to actually have the appointment and the phone number and address of where I was going in the calendar, A, for safety reasons, so my office knew where I was at all times, and B, I would call the office and let them know, hey, I've just come out of an appointment, it's going to take me 15 minutes to get there, I'm going to be 5 minutes late. So the front desk staff knew who to call. They didn't have to run around looking for it. They could just click on it and they'd make the call on my behalf. And what was really cool, I'd get to the property and they would say, oh, your assistant or your PA told me. I had no assistant on that PA. But it's that professional feel as well, which is
Yes.
really good. And you're talking about when you're late. What happened when they hear a knock on the door? They'll look at the clock and they're going to know that they'll remember that you were late as well. You know,
Yes, absolutely. That first impressions, and let's just talk about the power of first impressions, because when people meet you for the very, very first time, they've never ever seen you before. What happens in the brain is very, very interesting. Number one, two things happen. Number one is the facial recognition software kicks into being, and they will do a scan of your face, who you are, and they will remember that in like a picture, and the picture is going to go into a filing cabinet in their brain. So when they see something that represents that picture again, out comes the picture. But two things. The second thing that happens is they also form an opinion of you as well. And that is attached to the photo, paper clipped on and put into the filing cabinet. So if we get that first opinion or impression wrong, then that wrong impression is going to be is paper clipped to the photo, and that's what's going to be held against you in future. So we've got to get that first impression right.
Certainly do. Yeah, you certainly do. So make sure you present well, Darren.
So moving on, we've really got to have a look in the mirror and do an attitude check. Now myself, I was never a BDM. I was a property manager signing up business. And if I was chasing rent arrears or having a bad day, I have to make sure I'm doing an attitude check, because my attitude and my tone is also brought into the appointment, keeping in mind that a person that is looking for a new property manager or a business to look after their asset, they're looking for someone who is polite, enthusiastic, that really wants the business. And if you're not that, then that is going to reduce the trust on the trust meter. So make sure you do an attitude check. It's probably a lot easier for BDMs that are in the motivational positive space all the time.
Well, Darren, and I always say to a lot of principals when they're asking about what task should a BDM do, one of the first things, and and I'm going to drop Laura Levison's name in here. She was one of the first people, my second client, equal first client that I ever trained. And I said she's not allowed to go to tribunal anymore. She loves winning. And she goes, yeah, but I've won 100%. So that win factor. But when you go to tribunal, that's a whole different mindset. And then, and then if you're dealing, then you've got to go to a new appointment after you've had that. Or if you're dealing with a tenant that's not paying the rent, and like you said, or you're dealing with a hot water system or an owner that's just upset at a certain thing that's occurred, you've then got to go straight into a new appointment. And I'm actually going to share in one of my presentations at our conference music that I used to listen to on the way to that appointment, so it would get me into the right check. Because even the most motivated people, when we're so motivated, if we fall, we actually fall harder. So you've really got to get yourself back into that mind as well.
Absolutely.
So, yep.
That being humble, being friendly, being polite, that's what people expect, and that's what they expect you to be like if you're going to earn their business, which of course, again, if we're dealing with the greatest asset they're likely ever to have, something that's worth hundreds of thousands, in some case, particularly in Sydney, Dennis, we know even over $1 million. Make sure you dress to your audience. You've got to know who your ideal audience is and dress to their level, and then one level above. Okay, so one level above what your audience is. So Dennis, we might have a person working in a regional town that will look okay and professional in a polo top, but that polo top is not going to cut it in the eastern suburbs in Sydney or the western suburbs of Perth, where a tie and an Italian suit may be suitable. So make sure you dress to your audience. Now, I've got this wrong once. I remember losing business because the guy didn't like me because I was wearing a tie. Now, unusual situation, but we've really got to be knowing our audience, and tattoos and piercings. It's an interesting subject these days, Dennis, but there's still people out there that don't like tattoos. So, where tattoos are so much more acceptable these days, and piercings are a lot more acceptable, depending on the piercings, of course. There's still people out there that don't like that. So if you've got your tattoos on show, you may be then for allowing a small percentage of people to not like you and not get the business because of that. So where possible, do what you can to be professional, cover yourself up. I think with ladies these days, it might be a little bit harder to cover up, particularly in the warmer climates of Queensland or Florida or places like that, where they've got their arms and their legs on show because of the, they don't want to be wearing heavy clothing and being covered all the time. So just watch that. And, with piercings as well, just make sure that what you are, how you're presenting yourself is acceptable when it comes to a transaction of hundreds of thousands of dollars of someone's asset. That's all I've got to say. You've got the odd person that says, well, it doesn't matter how you present, it's how you perform. But if you're going in with dreadlocks and your piercings on show and all of that, and if you walk through a security at an airport and it's just going to be going off because of all the pieces of metal in your face, don't be surprised when you don't win the business. So,
but it doesn't matter. I mean, obviously that can be still acceptable in a town as long as you're one step above.
Correct.
I mean,
just be sensitive to who your audience is. That's my point. I don't want to be judgmental on the tattoos and I mean, Dennis,
we've both got tattoos, Darren.
I'm probably one of the most tattooed people you're going to come across, but still we're in real estate and we have to be sensitive to other people's opinions. That's my whole point.
It is. And one of the things that I just want to add, when you're going into the door, you need to be able to understand and relate to the client that you're dealing with, with those right attitude checks. So, I used to have bikie gangs in my town, Darren, and if I walked in with the tie on, straight away I'd say, guys, do you mind if I just take the tie off? And they actually respect you more for that. So
they breathe easier, don't they? Because you're becoming one of them. It's all about being one of them.
It is. So, and one of the questions I've got to ask is, name badge or no name badge? Fortunately, right now, I'm a name badge person, would you believe? Even Rebecca at the conference, she's got a name badge that she's going to be wearing. It's so important. We've got the lanyards that we have people wearing. We're going to be wearing lanyards, Darren, at our own conference. So shoes or no shoes. Darren, what did you do? What did you do when you went to a presentation?
Well, I would leave, my shoes would stay on, but if it was a home where shoes come off, like it could be Asian clients or something like that, people ask you to take your shoes off, you take them off. But look, I mean, at the doorway, is there a shoe stand outside the front door with shoes on it? Well, that tells you you're likely going to need to take your shoes off. So, my word of warning here, make sure your socks don't have holes. I always had only black socks. Now, I know, Dennis, you're different. You like your colored ones, but always have socks, never have holes, because you don't know when your shoes have to come off and your socks are now going to be on show.
So, Darren, you haven't answered my question. Did you have shoes on or off when you walked to the door?
My shoes were on when I walked to the door.
That's all I wanted. Okay, so while Darren had his shoes on, I'm going to show you what I did. I've got orange shoes today. I do apologise. My shoes were off, but I was standing there with my shoes off, and they would say, "Oh no, leave it on, leave your shoes on." But I would say, "No, Mr. and Mrs. Smith, I need to respect your home before I come into the property." It's just like a potential tenant. If you notice, I didn't park on the driveway. Man, you should see our leasing agent. If a potential tenant had parked on the driveway, she is going off. So now I'm talking about points of difference here, how strict we are on processes of tenant selection. And I also, if I can't respect your home, how do we expect potential tenants to when we're showing them through your home? We even have a mat that says, please take your shoes off. The reason why I've got them in my hand, Mr. and Mrs. Smith, is because when I go to the back door, I'll go out and I can have a look. So I know that you had Darren Hunter come through earlier. Did he offer to take his shoes off? So I'm not spagging Darren out or criticising him, but I'm throwing salt into the wound.
Would you actually ask that question?
Did I? I did.
I never knew that. There you go. I've learned something new about you today, with your shoes on or off. So there you go.
Have them off in your hand, ready to go. And I actually did this with my boss. She wanted to come. She's going, how's Dennis getting all these listings? And she came on a presentation with me. And maybe I set her up and I tricked her a bit. She had long she had a long boots on, and I banged on the door and I quickly took my shoes off. And she said, "What are you doing?" I said, "You're going to take your shoes off." So she starts undoing and like the boots, and the guy's opened the door and she's still got her head down. Anyway, so I thought it was quite funny. But anyway, so shoes, it's such an important thing, and like you said, depending on the the culture, you've got to be really
Got to be sensitive to the culture always.
Yeah. Okay. So ensuring your car's presentable, Darren.
Well, the car is an extension of you, and particularly when we're in property management, we are presenting ourselves as a quality service to manage someone else's asset, and we're going to be asking the tenant to keep the property clean. They expect you to be a standard above that as well. So make sure that your car is clean and presentable. You will be judged. If you pull up and your car hasn't been washed in 6 months and you say that we'll make sure the property is kept clean at inspections, then your actions actually say that you are lying, and you're going to lose credibility, and your trust meter is going to go very quickly back to zero. So ensure that it's fairly modern as well. If not, park it down the street, because people, if you just got a really old, battered up car for whatever reason, you may be judged as well. Be very, very careful with that. We've talked about don't park in their driveway before. Because you're in people's personal space.
Well, Darren, this actually happened to me, and the reason why I've got a particular car, no, I don't own a pink Ferrari, but I chose this picture, the image here, because of the shiny wheels, and this actually worked against me. I never parked in the driveway. I used to park out the front, but I even stopped doing that. I literally knocked on the door, Darren, and before the door was even open, there was a screen door, like a fly screen door that was there. And he said, "Oh, they're shiny wheels." I was being judged. I drove a standard Holden Commodore, which is just your family car here in Australia. And I was being judged because I had shiny wheels. It automatically put me on that back.
I think it's fair to say that the culture here in Australia is very much cutting down that tall poppy. And so if you are rolling up, you're very successful in real estate, and you're rolling up in your flashy BMW or Lexus. I actually own a Lexus, but you're rolling up, you've got to be very careful to the people you're speaking to. They may see if you've got too much success, too much money, that may work against you. You just got to, again, who is your ideal client you're going to see? You might find the flashy car is suitable. You may find it's not as well. So just be very, very careful with that if you do own a luxury vehicle. Now, showing you care, what can I say? Some good points on here. The focus is all about them. It's all about the people. The more you listen very carefully, less talking, the more you listen, the more the trust meter goes up, the more that you genuinely show that you care. And having high care factor, again, is just extending that trust meter. I'd like to very quickly talk about a story a number of years ago. I was looking at getting roller shutters put on the front of my own property. I called up 2 companies, and the first person that came out was dressed like a tradie, or in America they call them vendors. It wasn't dressed like a salesperson. So immediately I had no blockage. There was no barrier because with a really slick dressed salesperson looking like they're going to come and stitch me up, and may put up a barrier. But he came out, he measured it up, he asked us some questions, he showed me some samples. It was a very easy conversation, no pushiness or anything, and I wrote down his price. The next day, the second company came out, and it was a young guy. He wasn't dressed very well. He was probably thinking he was dressed like a slick salesperson, but he wasn't. But his attitude was awful. And he was talking to me with an attitude like he was about to stitch me up, buckle in, get ready, I'm about to sign away my life. That was his attitude, like a Cheshire cat licking its lips, looking at the canary in a cage. That completely put me off. The way he was dressed, his appearance put me off. And, at the end of the day, I went with the other guy. The trust was shattered, the way that he treated me. And so you've got to be very careful to listen very carefully, show genuine interest, to not then put up unnecessary barriers. but also ask questions and understand exactly why they've called you. Yes, you're in property management, but there's a specific reason why they've called you in. And Dennis, you asked an excellent question earlier in the presentation. And what are the concerns that you have about renting out your home? Or, you know, Mr. Smith, you could be managing the property yourself. You don't have to use a property manager. Can I ask why you feel that you need to use a property manager? And if you gain that trust, if your trust meter is right up there, and you ask, can I just ask, what are some of the biggest concerns that you have about property, you know, managing or having your property managed or having a tenant move in? They're going to very quickly volunteer the number one and the number two issues that they have. And here's another tip, Dennis. If you've got the trust and you ask the right question, they will tell you their number one biggest concern first, and say, is it okay if I can just write down some notes? And you write down tenant from hell. They're scared of the tenant from hell, if that's what they said first. And then the next concern that they have in order will come out next, and then write that down. It's probably going to be two things, maybe three things that they're concerned about the most. And now they've given you the formula of the things you now have to address with your listing presentation. And
Darren, when it gets to that point where they're talking about, oh, but the other agent offered, you know, if you match their fees, you can then go back to those hot points that you've written down because you asked these listing questions. Darren, remember when you told me that you didn't want that tenant from hell? Remember when you told me, well, you know, other agencies don't have these systems in place?
Yes,
So
well done, because now you've got the whole piece.
Yeah, you bring those points up. It's really
trust allows the gameplay to come to the surface.
It does.
Know exactly what their issues are. But if you don't know exactly what the issues are, you aren't asking the questions, you're not listening properly, then you could be speaking may as well be speaking a completely different language, and then you're surprised why you don't get the business and someone else does.
Yeah, spot on. And another good example, so when I was in the property, Darren, I used to ask them, you know, why did you buy this home? And if they turned and they said, wow, look at the views, Dennis. I didn't stand there with my arms crossed looking at the views. I used to be looking at the client and make the views behind me. So they were looking at the views because it puts them in a happier mindset. They bought it because of the views. Or it also helps you, you know, I'm glad no one ever said I liked it because of the bathroom. I would stand in the bathroom if I had to. I'd get them around the positive mindset area of the home. You know, if you're in charge of the marketing, what would be your key feature? They could talk about the kitchen. Let's go in and have a look at the kitchen. So you're walking around the home. You know, get them showing off their home. Get them showing it off why they bought it. You know, you're putting them into that mindset of that positiveness. You know, it could also be, you know, they bought it because of the location. Then you can talk about the locations and the ease, and you talk about that and you bring that up and you share about potential tenants that are always looking for homes, you know. So you're then becoming that person that understands what's happening. A good tip is don't say, New Mexico, for an example, Darren, our clients there, the Johnsons, you know, they're in a drought, right? So it could start raining and people might be happy it's raining. And if you say, oh, it's great that the weather is finally getting rain, you could walk into a house where I hate the rain. So ask them if they're enjoying it and get them, and then you know what to talk about. You know, photos, pictures, paintings. You know, I used to love walking into a house and sticky beaking at all the photos. You know, I'm trying to, you know, match something, and you know, if they're going to get something, I'd be running around looking at photos, trying to find something in relevance that I could talk about, whether it was sport or whatever. You know, if there's a boat out the front, I've got no idea about boats, right? And the husband wasn't home yet. I wouldn't say, wow, you've got a boat, isn't that exciting? Because the wife could be upset that, oh, he's always going away with the boat, never spending time with me and the kids. So, you know, be careful how you bring up certain things. But the reason why we have things on a wall is because we're proud of it. I mean, you come into my home, I've got sports memorabilia, movie memorabilia. Your room, Darren, you've got, you know, the Lord of the Rings, and so have I. And we've got all of the stuff that we love. So they're good common grounds that you can find, okay? And what concerns, again, we're going to emphasise it. We've both said it a couple of times now. That brings up those hot points, of what to do. So walking through the property, Darren,
So you've got to take the time to walk through the property, but also be ready to take notes, because they then see that you are genuinely interested in that. Walking through, ask lots of questions. Asking lots of questions, you're getting to know the client and their property. The property is an extension of them. If you're talking about the property, then you're taking genuine interest in the property and also them. Never criticize the property though, because something that you may flippantly give a bad comment about could offend them. Because a property represents them, it's their heart, it's their interest. You've got to be very, very careful not to criticize. I think salespeople of cars are very quick to know a rule that you never criticize the trading, no matter how rusty and how battered out it is. You just don't criticize it, because you could lose a deal over it because it smashes and breaks the trust.
It could have been a family heirloom vehicle that was passed down in generations, and that might not be the vehicle that they're trading in. And as an example, Darren, where you can take advantage of if an owner, criticizes something about their home. There's some of the shower screens, the old shower screens in the 60s, 70s, and early 80s. What they used to do is they would have the wire in the glass. And the reason why they had the wire in the glass is because when the hot water would hit the glass, if it was cold, it would turn hot. A lot of them would crack. So they then changed the glass. So a lot of homeowners wouldn't know this stuff unless you've spoken to tradespeople.
Dennis, it's still very much a problem today. Still a lot of cracked shower screens out there because of the wide scintilla glass.
Yeah, but the problem, and that's the thing, if the owner says, oh, it's always cracking, you don't jump on it, yeah, it's a big problem. Educate them. And then you're the expert. I'm just adding.
Yeah, no, good point for sure. And of course, upgrading to laminated toughened glass is the key, that's for sure.
Yeah.
Taking photos with permission. But, I used to say, even if you're not going to get the property, it doesn't matter. Take lots of photos. You're taking a lot of interest. You're showing that you genuinely are interested in them and their property. It doesn't matter if you have to go and delete the photos later on. Take photos and take interest. Dennis, I think it's very clear most people or BDMs going through a property wouldn't even do half of these things.
No, not at all. I mean, Darren, you're talking about taking photos. Are you talking about that line of, Mr. and Mrs. Smith, do you mind if I take photos now so we're ready for marketing when you sign with us? While you're doing that, I'm not saying you're using that as an example. I'm talking about professional photography. But it still is something that you're offering to do, or, if you don't mind, I'll take a photo of the property because I've got some potential tenants that may look, but we will arrange professional photography for you once you're ready to move out.
You're really keen as well. You could take some photos in the listing presentation, say, look, I'll just get them off the boxbrownie.com. I'll show you tomorrow. You might put sample on them and show them how amazing that their property can look with enhanced photos. It might cost you $10, but hey, what a great investment to impress the owner.
That's right. If they don't list with you, it's not a bad investment still, because if they do list with another agent, you can remind them of your photos and say, look, we're ready to go. Can we start marketing with these photos? So yeah. Okay, understanding their need, Darren. I think we have kind of covered this, but it's a good point that just to
I think there's too many people out there in property management. They just do all the talking. You've got to find out why they've called you in. What is their need? And if they feel that you've identified their need, addressed their need, then they have a sense of peace of mind and confidence that you understand where they're at. You're on the same page. That maximizes trust that then can lead to a transaction. The more you understand their pain, what they wrestle about, the more that you've given a solution to what's been stressing them and keeping them awake at night, the more that you can then present an exact solution of how you can provide an answer to those stress points.
Yeah, spot on. And all those questions that you're asking, and we've both said it, but we've got 2 ears and we've got 1 mouth, and those listening questions, because it's a listening presentation, you ask once and you listen multiple times. It's a really good thing. So if they feel that you are the best solution, then obviously they're going to give you the business.
And in most cases, your fees are a secondary issue. This is how the quality agents get higher fees, because they've got all of these trust points, down pat.
Darren, I genuinely believe that we were the best agency, and I genuinely felt that they really needed to list with our agency, because I knew that if they didn't list with us and they were going to go to a rival agency, it was going to be in inferior service. You've got to have that. You've got to speak from the heart and finding out what their concerns are before the presentation, emphasizing it in the presentation, and then backing it up with some golden statistics, which is tip number 13. It puts you in that prime position to gain their trust. So, give them live statistics, give them factual information. So as an example, you can get reports from realestate.com or whatever your online portals are where you market your properties. Give them how many clicks that they've had on a particular property that is similar to theirs. Show your clients how long on average properties are sitting vacant, and then compare it with your rivals. So in Australia, realestate.com can give you reports. They can, through one form, and they can give you particular stats on what the percentage of potential tenants have got a pet, or likely what the stat is of their industry that the potential tenant may work in, and average wages. It is crazy what one form can do for you. How many inquiries you've had on a particular property. If you've got Inspect Real Estate, print out the boss reports that you've got and show them. And don't be scared to show them if you've got a property that's had no inquiries on it for 1 or 2 weeks, because you can then educate the owner. Look, Mr. and Mrs. Smith, your property is similar to theirs. They are asking $700 a week and we've had no inquiries for 2 weeks. You don't want to be sitting there. Let's go under them so we can get more inquiries. The owner isn't taking on our advice. So then, you're then setting them up, Mr. and Mrs. Smith. They're not taking our advice. For example, I would be happy to commence marketing at $700 a week, but if we haven't received any inquiries after 1 or 2 days, I'll be calling you, and we're better off getting a reduction, because each week your property sits vacant, you're losing 2% of your annual income. I don't want you ringing me up after 2 weeks and saying, Dennis, you haven't listed my property, because my job is the fun job of being that fortune teller, Mr. and Mrs. Smith. I'm giving you an opinion of if it was vacant right today, but we might not be marketing the property for 3 weeks or 4 weeks, depending when you're moving out. So educate them and show them stats, show them the potential tenants and how many are currently looking now, and even how many have looked in the last 24 hours. If you've got an online booking system, you've got the future where you can tell your owners that you might have 5 potential tenants looking at these properties tomorrow. So, okay, talk about it. So follow up after the appointment, Darren.
So it's well known that a lot of people in property management, BDMs, aren't actually following up. Again, if you're against 2 or 3 other agents, you being the one that follows up could simply be the reason why you've signed up the business. So call or email the client after the appointment to follow up if you didn't get the business. There are many reasons why they're not willing to commit now. It could be that they're just simply not ready now. You just got to put them into your diary, into your CRM system with, for example, IRE, BDM, and follow them up later on.
So Darren, I've done homework on a lot of the companies that I train, and on average, 87% of the people don't call me back when I put an inquiry with regards to their property management services. And they've emailed me their fees, I've spoken to them on the phone, and I don't receive that follow-up. So, we want to be in that 13%. I mean, that's only an average of the clients I'm training. So, you're likely to be the only one that does do a follow-up like what you're saying, and then obviously we understand the importance of newsletters and databases, Darren.
Everyone goes in the database. Everybody gets fed. You got to remain top of mind.
You do. You certainly do. And obviously, invite them to like your Facebook page. A good example while you're in the presentation, show them your social media page, Mr. and Mrs. Smith. We educate our clients on social media. Bring it up and I'll show you some examples. Don't show them on your phone. Bring up their phone and then hit like, okay? And then you can even show them the testimonials that you've got there as well. And you know what? After the appointment and you're following them up, send them a video text thanking them for their time. Pull over on the side of the road. Another tip that I don't even have in there, Darren, you could have your business card. You could write thanks for your time and you could leave it in the letterbox. Obviously, in the United States, you're not allowed to do that. Okay, but in Australia, in New Zealand, and most other countries, you are allowed to put something in their mailbox. Okay, so be a little bit careful, but you can drop that in. Send them a video text on a hot point that you discuss. There's always something that we forget when we're at a presentation. I mean, I don't know how many times I left a presentation. I went, I should have told them that. Pull over. On the side of the road and do a video message and send it to them straight away, because you don't want to call them up and they, as a follow-up, and they say, Dennis, the other agency discussed this, so we went with them. So to overcome that, if I was at a presentation, I'd say, look, I understand you had 5 or 6 other agencies come through. Is there anything that they may have covered that you feel like I haven't touched on yet? Okay, so you then bring it all up. So I didn't mind going last. I didn't mind going first. If I was going first, I would say, look, I understand you've got another agency coming. Be sure to ask them, what are their arrears? Be sure to ask them, how many days on market? Remember, I said that 99% of our tenants are paying the rent. So bring those points up. So it's just putting salt into the wound and putting you into the hot point. Send them a handwritten card. Darren, how many handwritten cards do you receive?
Hardly anything. Dennis, I reckon we should be charging more for this this training here. People are going to be signing up business just from point 14, where they're following up. They got to follow up. Then, and if you do a video text and a handwritten thank you card, no competitor is going to do it. You might think, well, I'm too busy for this. No. That's the whole point of doing this training. We are teaching you how to win the business, which means you keep your competitors poor, the much cheaper competitors poor. This is the stuff that you have to do to win. So make sure you implement, if anything, point 14.
Spot on, and if there's handwritten cards, Darren, make sure it's in a coloured envelope, no branding, because they'll open that first as well. Also post them a thank you appraisal letter. So it's a formal letter that's appraisal, stating, to Mr. and Mrs. Smith, thank you very much for your time. As discussed, we believe that we could get, etc., etc., etc. Have your disclosure in there stating that, obviously the rental opinion that we have given is indicative of the current rental market. Okay, it can vary at time to time. If nobody has got a formal letter of an appraisal, contact office at inspiredgrowthtraining.com and we will send you an example. Scan that email, scan it, and then email it to them. But the most important thing to do, again, is bring in that personality. Darren, you were at a presentation and that I was sitting on when I first started in real estate, and you were talking about letters.
I was talking about actually statements. You interpreted it as letters, but it's end of month statements. We used to print them off. And I used to write hand notes on there, Mr. Smith, great month, tenant paid the rent, wishing you well, hoping everything's okay. Just a handwritten note on that. And it was on statements, but you would have heard it and thought, how do I apply it? And then you started doing it on letters.
I did. If I was booking it when I was at the property, if they were complaining about their baby not crying because it's eating, or the dog's always barking next door, or whatever the case, I would write, hope the dog stops barking, hope the baby sleeps better tonight. I would get personal and, with them. And I then had clients calling me before I followed them up. It's a really good point. Dennis, we've decided to sell, but you were so nice. Thank you very much. Our baby slept well. I was getting compliments like that, and then don't forget, Darren, to thank the referring partner who referred the business to you as well. And do repeat the above over and over again to all of your clients. I've got a client that I'm training, and I was only speaking to her a couple of days ago, and she said, Dennis, I haven't returned my call. And I've emailed them, I've sent them a video, and I said, did you send them a video? Yeah, I sent them a video text first. I said, send them another one. send them, hey, I know that you're busy. So I thought that I'd just send you a video message and let you know about some amazing new things that have just happened in our office. I'll also send you an email just following up, and feel free to give me a call when you can. Okay, it's just continued repeating it over and over again.
Dennis, another great session. What can I say? That session there was full of good stuff that people can implement. Make sure, remember, only results come when you implement. We want to get some feedback from you. Please email us, office@inspiredgrowthtraining.com, with any feedback, results you're getting, of course, any questions as well.